Hello ladies and gents, welcome to UX and this is why the US Navy chose its most broken ship for the hardest mission by Channel Navy Decoded. Yeah, I'm guessing it's a littoral ship, as the description says. Top comment says, did a human preview this before uploading to YouTube? And there are many comments about this. Now, I'm gonna say this, I've said this in the past, just because a channel uses an AI voice or AI narration does not mean it's an AI channel the way people think. People have this misconception that there are way too many channels out there who are completely AI. AI makes content, AI uploads the video, humans have nothing to do with it. No, maybe there are some channels, even then I doubt it, but that's not how it works. Narration is hard. Speaking, right, like I'm doing right now, is hard. I'm just saying things what I want to say. But if I had a script and if I had to say it in certain way, I might have to take multiple takes, and even then it would be hard. I've been doing this for like 5-6 years. So somebody somebody's good at editing, making a script, might not be so good with narration. So he could hire some guy or a narrator and pay him, or he could basically make an AI do things which this channel is doing. Whatever is easier. I'm guessing AI thing is much easier. That does not mean it's an AI channel. There is a guy behind it, right? I've seen the guy replying to other comments. So clearly there's a guy there who basically do things. It's not full on AI. There was a rant about this because I'm seeing this a lot. Oh, it's completely AI. It's completely AI slop. No, that's exaggerated. Maybe there are some channels like that, but not as the level as people think. Let's do this one.
Operation Epic Fury. Somewhere off the Iranian coastline, a trimaran warship is cutting through the water at 40 knots. On its...
Oh, there you go. There was an audio issue.
The Persian Gulf. Operation Epic Fury. Somewhere off the Iranian coastline, a trimaran warship is cutting through the water at 40 knots. On its flight deck, a rocket booster ignites. A small delta wing aircraft punches into the sky, 8-foot wingspan, 10 feet long, carrying a warhead that costs less than a pickup truck. Then a second one launches, then a third. Within minutes, an entire swarm is airborne, heading straight into Iran's air defense network. This moment, the first time the United States Navy deployed a cheap, expendable attack drone in actual combat, happened from the deck of a ship that our own Navy tried to throw away. The Littoral Combat Ship, LCS. The program the media called Pentagon's floating garbage, the Freedom-class variant, built around a propulsion system that channels 2 diesel engines and 2 gas turbines through a single combining gearbox. The torque loads exceeded what the gear teeth could sustain. They ground themselves into metal dust while the ship was underway. USS Milwaukee, LCS-5, lost propulsion on her maiden voyage, 1 month after delivery. USS Detroit, LCS-7, dead in the water, towed back to port.
Who made this? Grabbed the contractor and said, like, why the fuck would you engineer? This is engineering failure. How can an engineer fuck up at this level? I don't want to throw F-bomb, but still.
The Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral Mike Gilday, called the combining gear problem the most challenging engineering problem that we have seen on any class of ship since I have been in the Navy. The Independence-class variant had a different disease. A trimaran hull built entirely from aluminum, 3 hulls joined by a wide connecting deck. Aluminum saves weight. Weight saves speed, but aluminum fatigues under the relentless cyclic stress of ocean waves. Structural cracks propagated through high-load junctions, a warship whose skin was tearing itself apart. The Navy decommissioned some of these ships before they reached half their design service life, ships that never grew old enough to fight. And yet, right now, in the opening hours of the largest naval campaign since Iraq 2003, while our $13 billion supercarriers sit safely in deep water, while our EEGI's destroyers hold the outer perimeter, it is this ship, the broken one, that is inside the cage, executing the mission that no other platform in our fleet can touch. Why? Why would CENTCOM hand a war-defining role to a platform?
Look at the way it's like gliding on water. It's made so it can go in shallow waters. That's what littoral ships do, to see threats of like mines and submarines. Small decent submarines, what's it called? I forgot. The Iranian submarines, mines, it's supposed to clear those. It's what it's supposed to do, right? So finally, it's shining. Same way, A10 was about to get retired, and yet A10 is seeing its probably final action. This is the ship that is properly seeing its action. Maybe this is redeeming time. Maybe, like US Congress and everybody will see, military will see, like, yeah, this thing worked perfectly, even with all its flaws.
With cracking hulls and self-destructing gearboxes. The answer does not live inside the ship. It lives on the map. And if you want to understand the engineering behind that decision instead of the headlines, subscribe to Navy Decoded. We do not celebrate weapons here. We calculate whether they work. To see why, we have to look at the geometry of the cage that Iran built. Look at the Strait of Hormuz, 21 nautical miles at its narrowest point. But the usable shipping lanes compressed to 4 nautical miles, 2 in each direction. 20% of the world's crude oil passes through that keyhole every day. Now look at what Iran has built around it. This is not a defensive position. This is a 3-dimensional kill zone. Beneath the surface, thousands of naval mines, contact mines, bottom influence mines, and EM-52 rocket-propelled mines that sit on the seafloor and launch upward into a hull. Behind those mines, Ghadir-class midget submarines, over 20 hulls, lurk in the acoustic clutter of the shallows, carrying torpedoes and additional mines. On the surface, over 1,500 IRGC fast attack craft and armed small boats. Small fiberglass hulls capable of 50 knots, many carrying a Nasser-1 anti-ship missile. They do not engage in formation, they swarm. Their doctrine is saturation, enough mass to overwhelm the computational capacity of any defense system. From the air, drone swarms fill radar scopes with hundreds of low-speed clutter signals, bleeding processing cycles from interceptor systems. And behind that electronic noise, IRGC ballistic missiles descend at Mach 3, the real payload hidden behind the cheap decoys. Do not underestimate what this system represents. This is not random aggression. This is a precisely engineered anti-access architecture designed to exploit one physical constraint. The time it takes our EEGI's combat system to detect, classify, authorize, and fire is longer than the flight time of the weapon trying to reach us at close range. That constraint locks our supercarriers out. 100,000 long tons of displacement, 5,000 sailors, $15 million per day in operating costs. We do not push that into a bathtub where the enemy has had 40 years to rig every square mile. We covered...
Yeah, I just saw the video from military show about Ukraine and their Sting drone interceptor, which has 80 to 90% interception rate, which is insane how cheap it is and how fast Ukraine can make it. That basically solves the drone problem when it comes to Iran. One true strength Iran had was drone swarms. This things basically removes it. So yeah, US basically gonna like nab on it, like, yeah, let's do this. So, and you like, okay, how you supposed to know which one is drone, which one is ballistic missile? Speed. You deploy something that is at like lower speeds with the Sting drone interceptor. Anything's faster, you use Aegis system. So when Iran tries to like overwhelm the system by throwing drones first and then throwing ballistic missile, Aegis always stops ballistic missiles, and this drone interceptors stops drones. There you go.
For this geometry in a previous video, our carriers sit outside in deep water, holding the choke points from a distance. But distance creates a problem. CENTCOM needs 2 things solved simultaneously, and both require a platform inside the cage. The first problem is offensive. To break Iran's air defense network, we need a forward node close to the Iranian coastline, a launch platform that throws cheap attack drones into the radar net, saturates the interceptor grid, and opens a corridor.
You don't want to get rear-ended by this ship, do you?
For the Tomahawks screaming in from the destroyers behind. That platform needs 4 things: a small radar and thermal footprint that does not attract ballistic missiles, speed above 40 knots to stay ahead of targeting solutions, a deck large enough and stable enough to launch drones, and a displacement small enough that it can operate in the shallow coastal waters where deeper draft warships cannot follow. The second problem is defensive. The strait is seeded with Iranian mines. Before a single oil tanker can transit safely, someone has to find those mines and destroy them, without sending sailors into the minefield. The Avenger-class minesweepers that performed this mission in the Gulf have been decommissioned, the last 4 withdrawn from Bahrain in September 2025. The replacement must carry unmanned mine hunting systems, robots that go where humans should not. Run the variables. Supercarrier? Too large, too expensive, too many of our people at risk. Destroyer? Not designed for mine countermeasures, and every VLS cell is too valuable to risk.
It's destroyer.
Inside the kill zone. Cruiser? Same problem. Submarine? Cannot launch drones from a submerged platform. One ship solves both equations. The ship the Navy wanted to throw away.
That's not entirely accurate. Navy wanted to throw it away because of a lot of engineering problem, like the video said, of why things were failing. On top of that, certain design choices which worked, but not what Navy was looking for. There was a massive, failure when it comes to certain level of engineering and oversight. Military oversight had an issue because they didn't oversight the contractor and communicated well what they wanted. There was a lot of screw-ups there.
But before we see what this ship did in combat, we have to understand why it even survived long enough to fight. Because the answer is buried inside the very defects that should have ended it. Start with the Independence class, the trimaran design that cracked. 3 narrow hulls connected by a wide aluminum deck structure. The cracks were real, metal fatigue at high-stress joints, a material weakness that the Navy spent years and millions trying to fix. But look at what the trimaran geometry also produced. 3 hulls spread apart create a metacentric height, the distance between the center of gravity and the center of buoyancy, significantly larger than a conventional monohull. In naval architecture, metacentric height determines how violently a ship rolls. Think of the difference between standing in a canoe and standing on a catamaran. The wider the stance between the hulls, the harder it is to tip. Higher metacentric height means the ship resists rolling. It stays flat.
It looks cool, and obviously just by engineering alone, it's harder to tiptoe it, right? So it's going to be very stable. It's American engineering. It messed up in a lot of places, but at the core of it, it's still awesome.
That is irrelevant for a traditional warship firing guns or launching missiles. But for a platform that needs to launch drones from its deck in open ocean swells, it is everything. A trimaran deck is a stable table in a moving sea. Now consider the other failure. The LCS was designed around swappable mission modules, anti-submarine warfare, surface warfare, mine countermeasures that could be loaded and unloaded in port. The modularity concept failed. The modules were late, over budget, and underperforming. The Navy abandoned the plug-and-play vision. But when you strip the failed modules out, what remains? A massive, empty flight deck. Over 11,000 square feet of unobstructed surface area on the Independence class, roughly the footprint of 3 tennis courts. That empty deck was not designed to be a feature. It was left behind by failure. And failure sometimes leaves behind exactly what you need. Open architecture. The Navy stopped trying to make LCS perfect. Instead, they made it a modular node. Bolt a rocket-assisted drone launcher onto the deck. No structural...
I was about to say, I've seen videos by Know What You Think, I think. Yeah. You can just cargo, cargo container modular rocket launchers. Basically, you can bring on a cargo container which has a rocket launchers and many other things on this, on amphibious vehicle, and turn all those into some kind of an attack ship.
Modification required. The ship does not need to be good at everything. It needs to float, move fast, and open its deck to whatever system the mission demands. The trimaran with the failed modules became the most flexible launch platform in the fleet. A stable deck, 11,000 square feet of empty space, 40 plus knots. Now the question becomes, what do you put on that deck that changes the war? In December 2025, USS Santa Barbara LCS-32 was operating in the Arabian Gulf. From her flight deck, a rocket booster ignited. A small delta wing aircraft climbed into the sky. 10 feet long, 8-foot wingspan. That was the first shipboard launch of Lucas, the low-cost, unmanned combat attack system. the first time the United States Navy fired a one-way
That's what Lucas mean. I'm like, why Lucas? Low cost. Okay, makes sense.
attack drone from a warship at sea. 2 months later, that weapon went to war. Lucas is an engineering paradox. Its airframe is reverse engineered from Iran's own Shahed 136, one of the most effective one-way attack drones in modern warfare. American engineers at Spectre Works in Arizona studied what made it effective: the delta wing aerodynamics, the low-cost manufacturing, the operational range, kept the physics that worked, and rebuilt everything else. Then they flew it back to the country that designed it. But what separates Lucas from a copy is not cosmetics. It is 3 engineering upgrades that turned a crude weapon into a precision system. Start with propulsion. The original Shahed runs a crude 4-cylinder knockoff that broadcasts its acoustic signature across the water. You can hear it coming. Spectre Works replaced it with a DA-215 two-stroke engine, 215 cubic centimeters.
What? So the original one was 4-cylinder, inline 4 I'm guessing, 550cc that produced 50 horsepower, carburetor, yeah, so why not? And the American one is 215cc, two-stroke, 20 horsepower one, electronic, yeah, it's a fuel injection. Even here you can see the difference. One is carburetor, other is fuel injection, modern system. Reduce vibration, optimize exhaust system. Yeah, if you add fuel injection, you can like control the variables, right? Electronically. This is better, lower. Yeah, but you can get the same type of output with 20 horsepower that you can do with 50 horsepower. How does that work?
20 horsepower, fitted with electronic fuel injection. The DA-215 operates at a fraction of that noise. Lucas does not arrive silently, but it arrives quietly enough that radar detection, not sound.
I mean, it's not going to be as fast as the Shahed ones, but they don't want it to be fast. They want it. This is how America works. Most of the missiles and cruise missiles that America has are subsonic, stealthier. Even drones are trying to make it stealthier, because if it goes undetected, there is no rush. Why be in rush? That's the mentality.
Becomes the primary warning. Then there is the guidance. The original Shahed follows pre-programmed GPS coordinates, fire and forget. Lucas does not. It maintains a continuous uplink through the Starlink low Earth orbit satellite constellation. That connection solves the radar horizon problem, the physical limit where the curvature of the Earth blocks line-of-sight targeting.
Yeah, but low Earth orbit one is really fast. It circles the Earth every 45 minutes, or is it 90 minutes? Something like that. It's insanely fast. Same speed as Earth rotation. That's how low Earth satellites work. So how does it keep the contact?
Through Starlink, a command center can redirect Lucas against moving targets beyond the horizon. Human in the loop. The trigger requires a person.
Not the speed of the Earth, the escape velocity. Yeah, so it takes about 45 to 90 minutes to circulate low Earth orbit satellites. They're really fast, but they go north to south, so they can take pictures when the Earth is moving. That's how they work. I don't know about this. Maybe he's thinking of geosynchronous. It's in the name. It's synced with the ground, so it's always in the same place, even when the Earth moves. Maybe it's getting from that. I don't know.
The precision requires a satellite. And finally, the capability that no Shahed has ever demonstrated: autonomous coordination. Lucas carries swarming algorithms that allow drones in a formation to talk to each other, sharing trajectory data, allocating targets, coordinating approach vectors. A single Lucas is a nuisance. 20 Lucas, arriving from multiple azimuths, is a computational crisis for any air defense system. Now run the economics. Each Lucas costs $35,000. An SM-6 interceptor to shoot it down costs nearly $5 million. Iran spent 40 years building a toll booth that charges $5 million per car. Lucas drives a $35,000 motorcycle right through the barrier. The cost trap that Iran designed to drain American interceptors now works in reverse. When Epic Fury commenced, Lucas drones launched from LCS flight.
Does it though? Their air defense didn't work when they should have worked. Why would they work now? Like, I mean, it works against America because America tries to defend everything and it can't defend everything. Is that accurate? Iranian things are not even working. Everything blew up. So, like, you don't need drones to overwhelm them. They're already overwhelmed.
Decks and struck IRGC command and control nodes. They hit early warning radar installations. They struck missile and drone launch sites. They hit military airfields. Admiral Brad Cooper, the CENTCOM commander, called Lucas indispensable. Not useful, not helpful, indispensable. The $35,000 drones cleared the path, and behind them, Arleigh Burke destroyers opened their VLS cells. Tomahawk cruise missiles, $2 million each, carrying precision guidance and heavy warheads, flew through the corridors that Lucas had just opened. The expendable drone does not kill the hardened target. It blinds the air defense that protects the hardened target. The $2 million Tomahawk finishes the job. For the first time in history, the United States Navy synchronized expendable attack drones with strategic cruise missiles inside a single kill chain, in actual combat. While Lucas tore corridors through Iran's air defense, a second mission was unfolding in the waters of the Strait itself. USS Canberra, LCS-30, had arrived at Naval Support Activity Bahrain in May 2025, the first Independence-class LCS to deploy with the full mine countermeasures mission package. USS Tulsa, LCS-16, and USS Santa Barbara followed. 3 LCS platforms, each carrying a suite of unmanned systems designed to find and destroy mines without placing a single sailor in the minefield. The MCM package operates on a simple principle that required decades of engineering to execute. The ship stays outside the threat zone, the robots go in. The Common Unmanned Surface Vehicle, CUSV, is a remote-controlled boat that tows the ANAQS-20 mine-hunting sonar through suspected mine zones. The sonar paints the seafloor, identifying objects by shape, density, and magnetic signature. The human operator sits on the LCS, miles away, watching the data feed. From the flight deck, MH-60S Seahawk helicopters carry 2 additional systems. The ANAES-1 Airborne Laser Mine Detection System, ALMDS, scans the water column with a blue-green laser, detecting floating and near-surface moored mines that sonar cannot reach from below. Once a mine is located, the ANASQ-235 Airborne Mine Neutralization System deploys an expendable unmanned underwater vehicle, a small robot that swims to the mine and destroys it. 3 layers of detection, 3 unmanned systems, 0 sailors in the water. The Avenger-class minesweepers that previously performed this mission required their crews to operate directly inside the minefield. LCS eliminated that variable. The first combat deployment of this unmanned MCM architecture happened in the waters of the Persian Gulf during Epic Fury. 2 missions, same class of ship, running simultaneously on the same map. One is tearing holes in Iran's air defense. The other is clearing mines from the strait. Neither mission was possible 12 months ago.
I mean, the drone thing is like makeshifty, obviously. It's not supposed to do that, but apparently you can do that. LCS's mostly job is to like mine clearing, submarine hunting, right? Seahawk being there. We can operate in shallow water. I mean, US already, I'm guessing US must have had plans to replace it. You can't just remove this. You do need it, right? Because it does specific job. So you don't just like shelve the littoral ship and just like, okay, we don't need it. You must have a plan for replacement. Right now it's working, right? But I'm guessing they'll fix the problems that it had. Maybe fix the existing one or make new ones. I don't know.
Now watch them converge. On the offensive side, LCS platforms cut through the Gulf at over 40 knots, constantly shifting position, denying Iran's coastal defense batteries a stable targeting solution. From those moving decks, Lucas swarms launched into Iranian airspace. Dozens of $35,000 drones flooding the radar scopes of IRGC air defense. Every interceptor fired at a Lucas is an interceptor that will not be available when the real threat arrives. And while Iran's defense grid is saturated, burning through its finite magazine on expendable targets, the destroyers behind the LCS open their vertical launch cells. Cheap mass kicked the door open.
I don't know about this, man. Like, their anti-air defenses are not working that much already. Lot of them are destroyed, and whatever are left, they are not using it, because as soon as they use, like, growlers can detect it, and it's a problem in itself. So they're like conserving it, even whatever is left around, right? When did you last heard of like their air defense is actually working? Right? They recently showed a video of like shooting down F-15, apparently, just like they shot down F-35. I don't know the validity of that, but yeah, they are claiming that. Wait a minute, I have to check that. Oh, here we go. They're claiming, Iran's press TV, F-15 was just shot down near Hormuz. That's supposed to be F-15. Okay. Now, is that real? Because I don't know, man. I mean, they're claiming they did that same way they claim about F-35. I don't think any news is coming out from CENTCOM or something. Maybe they'll talk about it. I don't know. But do they have any air defenses left? And whatever it's left, are they really using it, or are they using it, like more conservatively? So you don't really need drone swarm for that.
Open. Tomahawks flew through the gap. On the defensive side, other LCS platforms deploy unmanned surface vehicles and helicopter-borne systems into the mined waters of the strait. Sonar mapping the seafloor, lasers scanning the water column, robot swimmers destroying what they find. The corridor that Iran seeded with $1,500 mines is being cleared by machines. No crew in the water, no minesweeper inside the threat zone. The results wrote themselves across the surface of the Persian Gulf. Iris Jamaran, a Muj-class frigate, one of Iran's most capable surface combatants, was struck and sunk at Konarak Naval Base. CENTCOM released satellite imagery confirming the hull partially submerged at the pier. Iris Bayandor and Iris Nagdi, both corvettes, shared the same fate at the same base. 3 warships destroyed, without leaving port. At Bandar Abbas, Iris Shahid Bagheri, a commercial cargo vessel that the IRGC had converted into a makeshift drone carrier with an angled flight deck, was structurally destroyed at her berth. Iris Macron, hull number 441, a converted oil tanker serving as a mobile forward base, heavily damaged at anchor. But here is the detail that rewrites the story. Look at what we just destroyed at Bandar Abbas, the Shahid Bagheri. Iran spent years converting a cargo ship into a pocket drone carrier, welding an angled flight deck onto a freighter hull. That was their answer to drone warfare at sea. It never sailed into combat. It was broken at the pier where it was born. Now look at what just launched the drones that helped destroy it. A 3,000-ton ship with cracking aluminum skin that our own Congress called a waste of money. Iran built a drone carrier from scratch.
I mean, if Congress called it, that's job done. Listen to the Congress. They never screw it up. Yeah.
And lost it. We took a ship everyone wanted to scrap and turned it into a drone carrier that worked. That is not irony. That is engineering. Over the course of Epic Fury, more than 100 Iranian naval vessels were destroyed. The surface fleet that was supposed to swarm and overwhelm us in the shallow waters of the Gulf ceased to exist as a coherent fighting force. Now you have the data. Go back to the question we started with, and this time, you already know the answer. Why the worst ship? Why LCS? Because the equation did not ask for the best ship. It asked for the right ship. Small enough to enter the cage, fast enough to survive inside it, a deck wide enough and stable enough.
Well, in military, best is relative. Best is what you have and what works. That's what best is. Right? Military is not like commercial. Let's put the top 10, which is the best. No, what you have. Does it work? Is it battle tested? There you go, it's best.
Enough to launch drones. Cheap enough that losing one does not cripple our fleet. Run those 4 variables against every hull we own. Only one answer comes back. And that answer did more than the equation required. It launched the first combat drone strike from a warship. It deployed the first unmanned mine countermeasures architecture in a live minefield. It operated inside a kill zone that our supercarriers could not enter. and it survived, because 40-knot speed and a 3,000-ton displacement do not generate the targeting signature that attracts ballistic missiles. The engineers did not fix the cracked hull. They did not repair the failed modules. They ran the equation again, and the failures became the features. The empty deck that modularity left behind became a drone launch pad. The trimaran hull that cracked under ocean stress provided the stability that rocket-assisted launch demands. The low cost that Congress complained about became the acceptable risk that let CENTCOM push LCS into the teeth of Iran's defenses. If you now see equations instead of failure, subscribe to Navy Decoded and share this with someone who still believes a warship has to be perfect to be lethal. The LCS proved a principle that will define the next generation of naval warfare. You do not need one platform that does everything. You need many platforms that each do one thing, connected by a network that multiplies their effect. Distributed lethality is no longer a PowerPoint briefing. It is a doctrine tested in combat, validated by a ship that was never supposed to see one. The future does not belong to perfect machines. It belongs to imperfect machines in the right position, running the right equation, operated by crews who understand that engineering does not require elegance. It requires math.
Isn't that how most militaries work? You have a thing to do a thing. Which military has one thing that does all? Like, I don't know, like this is how military works. And it's not about perfect, imperfect, whatever. Does it do the job? Do we need that? There you go. A hammer is a hammer. Spanner is a spanner. Yeah. So littoral ships has a place. It's supposed to clear mines. It's supposed to hunt for submarines. And apparently America can turn that into like launchers as well. There you go. It worked. That was good, man. All right, well, there you go. Why the US Navy chose its most broken ship for the hardest mission by channel Navy Decoded. If you like my content, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.